No matter how good you become and how smart you become with AI, there is always an element of security and governance and privacy that comes in with it. To discuss all of this, I have a very special guest with me today. Welcome, Aparna Achanta. We all know like how this chat GPT is solving all our problems. There is that deep sea coming in, the practical use cases of Gen AI. If you want to compare all of these applications in the market, like value proposition that you would come up with to differentiate all these applications, then what are the practical use cases which you think are really relevant?
I think Gen AI has this transformative, like potential. So I would ask the question, like, where not do we see Gen AI making its way in the future?
Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing great. This is Taha, Sajid, and we are at Security Pulse with yet another show. Today, it's a special topic for me. If you go into the headlines, you go to Google, you go to you tune in any news channel, there is a few news which is constantly being bombarded. One is that how Gen AI applications are evolving and the new applications coming in like DeepSeek, after ChatGPT, and all sort of competitions going on within China as well. So there is one part of the world which is talking about how the Gen AIs and the Open APIs is evolving, and the other part is of the world where we talk about that how the nations and the governments can capitalize on AI, in trying to outsmart other countries. But one topic which is very close to me, and this is I also think this is how nations and how governments can evolve and take the uh, and be smarter in the open API is, if we care about security and the ethical part of it, because anything, no matter how good you become and how smart you become with AI, there is always an element of security and governance and privacy that comes in with it, right? To discuss all of this, I have a very special guest with me today. uh, Welcome, Aparna Achanta. She's from IBM. She's a principal security architect, and she has been doing amazing things in the cybersecurity world, from mentoring professionals to helping in boot camps to writing papers to jury awards and everything. She's all over the place. And all for good reasons. And it's been my honor to have Aparna with me today to discuss about Gen AI security, like the challenges and implementations, all those things. So welcome, Aparna, to the show.
Thank you
I
so
hope you're
much,
doing well.
Taha. Thank you. It's such an honor to be here on your show. I usually watch all your podcasts with all the, security leaders, and to be here today, I think, feels really fulfilling. And In my current role as a security lead, I actually help several federal organizations, to build their uh, uh, AI frameworks and the governance frameworks. And I also help them with sort of developing like the zero trust strategies and frameworks. So to be here on this podcast and to share my learnings, yeah, that's something I've been like looking forward to all this week.
Nice, nice, exciting, exciting. I'm also excited, same as you, Aparna. So just to start off the things, I want to start up with some practical use cases, right? We all know like how this chat GPT is solving all our problems, right? And there is that deep sea coming in, and then there is Alibaba's coming up with its own variant of Gen AI. But where do you see the practical use cases of Gen AI? And if you want to uh, like compare all of these applications in the market, what is that like value proposition that you would come up with to differentiate all these applications, and then what are the practical use cases which you think are really relevant?
Sure. I think Gen AI has this transformative, like potential. Uh, so I would ask the question, like, where not, do we see Gen AI making its way in the future, right? Because, in my opinion, I think every industry can highly benefit from using Gen AI, like from healthcare to like telecom to like transport, sales, and customer service. And I think because it can basically help humans with solving problems, and it can help, I believe that it can help us to be more efficient. Like for example, for customer service, right? Like some of the projects I worked on, we've used Gen AI chatbots that actually creates like the case summaries and the health summaries for patients. Uh, and it can also be used in, like niche fields like cybersecurity, where it can help with like automatic incident response and threat detection and all of that. So I think it has like this amazing potential. It's I've seen a few articles in the recent times where it's been like being compared with like oil. Where it can be used, like it's becoming like a necessity.
True, true, true. And talking about oil, you reminded me of my time in Saudi Arabia. Talked about oil, and
Yeah.
we can make the best use of it. But yeah, I mean, Gen AI is the next oil thing, right? And it's
Definitely.
more to do with an AI and more to do with how you can get the personalized experience for your users and make the things efficient, right? Uh,
Right, right.
and as long as you are getting most of it and you're not violating data privacy laws and bringing in biasness to the decision, then it's all good, I guess, right? It's more about
Absolutely.
rather than who is winning the race. It's about which is better for my people. That what I think would be good.
Absolutely.
That is what we should care about.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
But I do think that, we also need to, even though it sounds like, like super exciting, I also think that we need to think about the security part of it when we also think about Gen AI.
True, very true. So talking about security, Aparna, let's say you want to use Gen AI in Microsoft, right? Or in any big organization, because everybody wants to be efficient, wants to use AI for their own good, and and to make their job easier, right? And to
Yes,
do more things
yes.
in short time. So if they want to use it, and if they want to use their own version of it, right, they don't want to use any like public open API data,
Mhm.
with the users can feed. And so starting from the security risk perspective, what do you think, what are the best practices that any organizations needs to do when they want to adapt like a Gen AI application?
Sure. I think because Gen AI is this new, like new sort of domain, it introduces a lot of like novel threat vectors. And it's not just, in the use of Gen AI, there can also be security risks in like the entire AI pipeline, right from like development to like deployment. So I think I think because it increases like the attack surface, we need to be like extra careful. So organizations, I think what they can do is they can come up with this like AI governance frameworks and also like data governance frameworks, where they basically have like an AI uh, ethics board, but they also use all the basic principles of security, right? Like principle of least privilege, like multi-factor authentication, role-based training. In addition to all this, I think they should also make sure that they're sort of like minimizing the data that is being collected. And even if they are collecting sensitive data, they have to follow like principles of making the data, masking the data, and also following principles of like curating the data so that we are not receiving any biased responses from these models.
Got it. Got it. Very well said, actually. And there is a few points I would like to add. When you talk about like OpenAI and uh,
Hmm.
these applications, you talk about the large language models, right? The
Yes,
LLMs,
yes,
and how do you train those models is what differentiate you from the others, right?
yes,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah,
so
yeah.
if you can have a way to prevent, let's say, an injection attack, or to data inference, attacks and poisoning attacks
Mhm.
of those LLMs, that is something which you can do, in my experience. And try to think from the threat modeling perspective, that if, for example, how many users are accessing those LLMs model, how you are training those data sets, and what outputs you are getting out of that, right? Because if you have a predefined policy that, hey, for example, like, for this amount of data I would like to see this amount of output, right? And these are the feeds which I need to mask out. So if you're
Right.
not getting those outputs, which you are desired for, you think that there is something wrong in it, right? And
Correct.
did you go back to it if you have a governance policy set, like a predefined rule, which can help you, like, making sure that the results are good? So this is where you can come in, and you can prevent such attacks.
Absolutely, Taha. So I wanted to ask you, from your experience, I know you also like are highly proficient in like helping organizations with their
Mhm.
security strategy, right? So
Mhm.
what are some of the most common threats that organizations face when they implement, like AI in general?
I think it's a very good question, Aparna, and it comes down to the risk appetite and the nature of every organization, right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about healthcare, they are mostly concerned about their, like, the patient data, and like the HIPAA compliance related activities, right? If you're talking about financial organization, they are talking about the PCI DSS compliance, all those things. So there is one part which is related to the compliance. So if your AI application, is processing some data which is confidential, which is like sensitive data. So there is compliance threats which you need to protect against, and every compliance, every set of regulatory standard which you are hitting, has some set of rules which you need to abide by. So there is one part of making sure what data is being processed by those applications. And
Right.
then there is another part which is coming in the governance side, like, for example, the architecture what you have in place, what are the common data points that are exposed to the public, so this is where you would do some risk audit and assessments on the architecture elements where you are, like, running these LLM models. And then you can, make sure that, all the controls are in place, from the detection, to the prevention, and to, minimize the blast radius, so it's about, so to answer this, actually, like, most organizations can get confused, and maybe they are doing too much security into it, right?
Mm.
They're not going anywhere. So what I would suggest is to take a iterative approach, starting with starting with threat modeling, making sure what compliance you are hitting, in that regard, and then try to assess, based on the threats what you have come up with, what are the quantification that you can do in trying to assess the impact of those threats, right?
Right.
Maybe you have an LLM model, which is being only accessed by a certain number of people, and it's only restricted, to inside the organizations, right? Nobody can access it from outside. So this is where you would not want to include too much security into it, right?
Right.
Make sure that the practices what you do in the secure development lifecycle is the same what you follow when it comes to any, like, AI application, like threat modeling, right? So this is how you can, do the security strategy for it, for it.
Great, great. Yeah. I think it's
Now
great
moving,
advice.
yeah, yeah, true, true. Moving on, I just want to, touch something on the, challenges that what you have seen. So I know, like, you have been implementing this Jenny applications for different projects, especially for the federal projects as well. Uh,
Yes.
your experience, when you start with implementation, and, like, start with design, sorry, and then implementation, testing, and everything that comes into it. Can you share us some experience, like the common, pitfalls and, common, like, mistakes that the organization do when trying to implement these Jenny applications?
So I think, sometimes the common mistakes that they do is they don't consider security as the forefront. It's more like, retrofitted, like after the deployment. Because of that, it can lead to like data breaches and all of that. So I think they have to first start with, follow the principles of, secured by design and like zero trust and all of that. In addition to that, I think some of the common pitfalls are mostly, like surrounding the data. And another top issue is like bias and also like misinformation. And I think to prevent these, there are some of like bias mitigation strategies where, they can use like post processing filters for the models. And some of the models also have reinforcement human feedback, where while the model is being trained, there also like a human involvement to make sure that basically the model is not reinforcing stereotypes and biases that we have as humans. So I think these are some of the major problems I've faced. And of course, security and privacy of data, because as we all know, these large language models, they require a lot of data, a lot of training data. And if the training data is not secured properly, they can be like leaks to data. And also, I think training, because the people who actually work with these models, they need to know like what are the intended like how is the model supposed to function, right? Like what should be the inputs and what should be the outputs. And only then they can know if there are, like any deviations to the model. So I think training the staff and also training them to like audit the training data whenever needed, and also like audit the user activity who interact with the training data. And so, in my opinion, training plays like training the staff who work with these models, and also training them in the security of these models uh, will help a lot with like preventing data breaches and stuff.
Very well said. And just want to add on, there is, I would also add the ethical part also into it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
as you are training the models and as you are, doing your security checks, make sure that
Right.
you are also including the ethical, challenges. You are also addressing ethical challenges as well. One
Absolutely.
of them
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
you should not be, for example, using companies' information into your data sets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, whatever, for example, whatever the policy defines for you, like
Correct.
you do this 1, 2, 3. This is what you need to also include in those inference checks as well, right? So this
Yes.
is something
Yes.
which should be there in place. And like the second part to it, once you have implemented these models and you are now running your applications, right? Then there is also comes the operational part to it, which
Yes.
which we also need to understand, right? That, for example, if something goes wrong, or if the data is not coming out right, what do you do next, right?
Mm.
Where those data is being consumed, right? Maybe there is some northbound interface which is consuming that data, which is also doing some more checks onto it, right? uh,
Right.
so you have to think more of like in a holistic view, rather than just
Absolutely.
using it for your one use case and just forgetting about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think one more point I would like to add is what organizations they can do is they can assess the, the AI and the risk management frameworks that are available from, for example, NIST has a AI risk management framework, and even Department of Homeland Security has a roles and responsibilities framework for AI. I think studying those frameworks will further help organizations clearly define, like for what use cases they want to use Gen AI, and what are the roles and responsibilities that are needed for all the users who will be having that interaction with the Gen AI models.
True, true, true. I think you made a very good point about the roles and responsibilities, right? People,
Hmm.
often don't look into this one, and they
Right.
just put this as part of the operational responsibility or the application owner responsibility. So if you have all these guidelines in place in your security policy and the governance
Mhm.
model, then it will be easier for you to adapt to all these changes, and that is something which you need to consider. Uh, so moving ahead, I think Aparna, it's been very informative, and I really like learned a lot from you on this one. So
Same here.
there is one last point I want to touch based on is the evolution of the chat GPTs and the Gen AI.
Hmm.
So as you know that we are now seeing every week there's a new application coming in.
Yes,
Every
yes,
country is bringing up their own version of Gen AI.
yes.
So do you think if we can have uh, a one holistic or a one app, let's say an X Gen, right?
Hmm.
And every country maybe collaborate in trying to train those models, right? It should not be restricted to a company's GNAI. It should be openly distributed, and we are more looking, because see, the challenges what the nation faces are the common challenges, right? uh,
Yes,
we
yes,
see we see poverty, we see economical challenges, we see inflations, and now the time has come that we should think more of like a global, from the global view, rather than like China winning the race, or like India is coming up with their own version. So with this way, I don't see we'll go anywhere. It will
absolutely.
add more confusion into the tech world, and there would be a rat race that would comes in, that everybody wants to you know like get the best version of it, right? uh, Rather than, we should have a one model, and everything should be distributed and peer to peer driven. That is how I see this evolving, and be more safer to use, I guess. But I want to take your opinion also on this, that how do you see this evolving, and where is the next gen application we can see, which is more secure, and which is more tightly controlled.
I think, like I really like your idea because I was also thinking about it this week, especially with like the deep sake, it making such a like stealing the limelight all over the world. What I feel like is, in general, there has to be like tight collaboration between all the policymakers and all the companies who are, and all, like all the Gen AI developers. Because I think, like eventually, like this is going to transform like all the industries, right? It's like when the computer came out, people were pretty hesitant to use it, but eventually it has transformed. Though, so I think I also see Gen AI like that. Like it's going to become like a day-to-day use kind of a thing. So I feel like there has to be some, like between the lawmakers and the policymakers, and between like whoever is building those models. I think there has to be some collaboration between uh, trying to govern and trying to secure these models, because if not, like you mentioned, right, like there's not going to be an end for it, and people are, it's constantly going to be a race.
Yeah, and there is one thing which I like, or which I have observed.
Mm-hmm.
There is this like notion that if you cannot beat it, just
Right,
ban it. Okay,
right,
or
right.
just put it under the national security threat umbrella. Okay,
Mhm.
so this is how it's been going on. If I don't like something, I'll not accept it, right? And if I'll come up with my own version,
Correct.
so this is, nobody will going to go anywhere with this.
Yes, yes.
We would like to see coming under a consortium where everybody
Mhm.
is giving their idea, and only the best idea can be taken, and we can make a policy out of it, right?
Right, right,
And then
absolutely.
you can be in a better position to control it in a from the security standpoint, like better
Mhm,
address
mhm.
the challenges and ethical concerns and like the policies and
Correct.
everything, right?
Correct.
This is, I think, for me as well. We should think about this as well.
Absolutely. Agree. Agree. Yeah.
So this has been a great insights, Aparna, and I really thank you to be a part of this show. Any closing thoughts, Aparna, before we say goodbye to our audience?
I think just the closing thoughts I have is thank you so much for having me on the show, Taha. I'm looking forward to coming back again if you ever choose to invite me. But if anybody wants to reach out to me, they can reach out to me on my LinkedIn. I also have written an article about Gen AI that got published on Forbes. And I am really passionate about this field, and I would love to learn from other thought leaders like yourself, Taha. And hopefully, we can all collaborate and make this Gen AI world like a better place.
Nice, very well said. And just to add on this, so guys, any one of you watching, reach out to Aparna. She's a master of the AI security, governance, and Gen AI, all those amazing things. And she's very helpful, and and you'll not find a better person, a better mentor than Aparna. And from my side, I just want to like say out this, that hey, so cybersecurity is something which now has become a necessity, and the only way you'll get smarter on technology if you'll become smarter on the security side of the things as well, right?
Right.
This is what message I want to give to my audience. And thank you very much, and thank you very much, all of you, for supporting the channel. If you want to support us, please do follow, do share, and please give me your comments to how do you like the shows. And this is all what keeps us going. So until next time, we'll see you with a different guest, and wish you all the best, guys, and be secure, be safe to wherever you are. And I'll catch you next time again. Okay, thank
Thank
you very
you
much.
all. Thank you. Thank you, Taha. Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.